from York, Pennsylvania, so I'm representing New York. I'm part of a movement that I started called the Black Love Movement, where we're going out in the street to combat racism and violence in the street amongst the people there. All I had to say about today and police brutality is I want everyone to understand that this goes way back than most of us even think. What they call the young people today, or the millennials, they probably think police brutality started with Trayvon Martin because they can relate to his age. And then people my age, I'm a 70s baby, many of them think that police brutality started with Rodney King in the 90s because that kind of put police brutality on the map. That is, my dad told me way before police brutality, may he rest in peace, way before the cameras came on, he was telling me about police brutality. My father did way before the 90s. And then those who are our grandparents and our parents back in the civil rights era, which was a very tumultuous time, many of them are misguided thinking that police brutality started in the 50s and the 60s with blacks being sprayed with hoses and all that nonsense that was going on. But the fact of the matter is, it goes way back, at least 4,000 years, depending on your understanding of Scripture. If you go to Exodus 1, chapter 10, it talks about how Pharaoh said, let us deal with them wisely, lest they multiply. That was in Egypt. Egypt is on the continent of Africa. So to me, that tells me those were black boys. And he said, get rid of the boys, but spare the girls. So this goes way, way back. That was at least 4,000 years ago. It said, let us deal with them wisely. Get rid of the firstborn boy, but spare the girls. So this was, and then if you move another 2,000 years ahead of him, during the time of Jesus, that's why it's good to know your scripture and your chronology of time. Jesus was again in Egypt, which tells me what his shade and his color is. He was being harassed by those in authority. Nothing different. Being harassed in the streets, being harassed because of his message. He had a kangaroo court in front of Pontius Pilate. Doesn't that sound familiar with those who know how the court system is when it comes to people of color? He had a kangaroo court and he was lynched. He was lynched. He was lynched in the streets, i.e. Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, and many, many more. He was lynched in the streets and given a kangaroo court, moving up into slavery time. All right? I know this is rough, but it's the truth. You can look up anything that I'm saying. Moving up during slavery time. Those were slave catchers before the police department actually became into a form. Those were slave catchers, and if you tried to run from the slave plantation, meaning when Africans was brought here to the shores of North America, many who came from other countries like Ireland and didn't have jobs and weren't skilled, they were given the jobs of slave catchers. And if you tried to run, that was their job, to return you, and even would brand you. If your slave master's name was Ryan or something, last name was Ryan, you got an R stamped on you. If his last name was Thomas, you got a T stamped on you, and they brought you back. That was their job. Then, in 1839, well, backing up, you can look this up, in 1690 in South Carolina, they made the citizens, white citizens, the legislation made them join in with the slave catchers, meaning if you didn't help bring in the runaway slaves, you could be fined and even jailed. The legislation of South Carolina made that a law. So you had no choice. You could be fined or jailed. That was in 1690 in South Carolina. Then in 1839, in Boston, Massachusetts, the first actual police department was formed. One of the most racist states in this country, still to today. Don't think about the Patriots, don't think about the Boston Garden. No, the Native Americans were slaughtered in that same place. Listen to the state, Massachusetts. That was formed by the Native Americans. They were slaughtered there. Slaughtered there. Still to the day, they have marches there protesting Thanksgiving. They said, how could you have such a day when our ancestors were slaughtered here? The Pequot Indians had thousands, and then their numbers were reduced down to 700 because of the slaughter there in what we know now is Boston, Massachusetts. So the first police department was formed in 1839 in Boston, but they were slave catchers. So no wonder we have such a tumultuous relationship with the police department. Why would we expect anything different? Look at the history, going all the way back to biblical times, all the way up to Jesus, and then in slavery time. And then after that first police department in Boston, other police departments formed. They called themselves night watchers, patty rollers, before the actual police department in 1839. Why would the relationship be any different? Why would we be surprised? It was tumultuous from the beginning. It's no different than a bad marriage or a relationship. You was beating me from the beginning. No wonder we're in front of Judge Judy or Judge Mathis now. It was rough from the beginning. It was rough and crooked and unjust from the beginning. This ain't my talk. This is history. Go look it up. Go look up how the police department started and who the night watchers were. This ain't hate talk. This is real talk, and we have to understand this. And anyone who contributes to the stereotypes and the racism, even if it's just a little talk amongst your family, and then it spreads, you're contributing to what happens to most of us in the streets, because most of them have a preconceived idea even before they come up on us. That's why it's so easy for them to do that. They're out of control. They're aggressive. They're going to hurt you. So they already have their finger on the trigger because they have preconceived ideas. Mm-hmm. Just a couple weeks ago, when I just moved here from North Carolina, even though I'm a native of York, Pennsylvania, and a cop rolled up on me in Springsbury Township there in York, and I looked at him, but I have training. I went to school for criminal justice, and now I'm a therapist. So I have training with criminal justice. I rolled my window down, I put my hands on the dashboard, and I seen him. He came up, he was ready. He was walking up on me like this. All I did, he said, it was a stop sign, and he said I didn't stop, I kind of coasted through. But he had his hand on the trigger. But because of my training, I was calm, and I was very nice to him, and then he did let up a little bit. But before he even rolled up on me, you could tell the tenseness there. Where'd he get that from? He said all I did was coast through a stop sign, but because I was nice and I was patient with him, I seen him kind of let up. So imagine our young brothers who don't have that training, seeing what's been going on, and they start getting a little combative back. Hence is why we got to talk to our boys. We have to talk to our boys. 67% of black households are headed by the females. So I was hoping more black men would be here, but we need to get our families back. If you have a male presence there, a lot of this stuff can reduce. But to the sisters who are raising 2 and 3 boys by themselves, my advice to you is not when something bad happens, but on a weekly basis, you give them training and you talk to them about how they should interact with the police. Try not to be combative, roll the window down, and try to live to see another day. Now that's not 100% proof, because Philando Castile in Minnesota showed them, he told them, I have a license, and they still shot him in front of his fiance and his 4-year-old daughter. Nothing is 100% proof. Terrence Crusher in Oklahoma. See how quickly we forget? He turned around, put his hands up, and he walked backwards, and they still shot him. Nothing is 100% proof. I said it may reduce. So talk to your boys about how you should interact with police, and maybe that will reduce the chance of you being murdered, lynched, and live to see another day. Finishing out, that's one thing. Another thing is unity, and us not being afraid to speak out, being a good Samaritan. They get us afraid. So now this place should be filled to the water. But they're waiting or hoping it don't happen to them, and then they'll be crying out. They're not teaming up with Sister Catherine and and Sister Kim because they think it can't happen to them. Anyone, black or white or Latino, this place should be filled to the water. But then when it happens to them, they didn't want to fry. I'm from New York. I could be sitting home chilling right now. And I had her and Sister Catherine on my show. I have a TV show there in New York. So unity, powers in numbers. And if we can get those from the white community to have some compassion, which I'm thinking this is what's going on here, it'll be like a bee's nest. You mess with one bee, then you got to deal with all of us, not just some of us. That's the mentality we got to have. Unity, informing our boys of how to interact with the police. And then, I'm not into politics. I'm a counselor and a therapist. So somehow, we got to get young men who look like us and have some kind of compassion in the police department. So when it's a simple a traffic stop, instead of it turning tragic, they'll say, oh man, that's Jamal from around the way. Man, you knew you weren't supposed to run that stop sign. Here's a warning, don't do that again. Instead of it ending up like Philando Castile and Eric Gardner. Even if we're doing something wrong, that don't mean our life should end. Exactly. Hell, I look at LAPD all the time. White men, white boys with sawed-off shotguns. Everyone's life is in danger, and they walk away unscathed. How does that happen? How? We've seen it. I seen a man in San Diego, out of his mind, waving a gun around, and they sitting there pleading with him, please sir, please sir. When I did my internship at Durham Crisis Unit in Durham, North Carolina, I did it at a crisis unit. And they had a police task force there that intervened, was supposed to intervene before the police intervened. I said, I never knew such a thing existed. So if it was an emergency case with someone who is mentally ill or have a substance abuse issue, the task force was supposed to go out and de-escalate before the police. The police was just there as a second option. They said, well, almost every county has this, Mr. Hamid, because that was where my internship was. I said, well, how come they don't use it? Where's the rubber bullets? How, with the police department, since my undergrad was in criminal justice, they say lethal force is supposed to be the last option. But somehow with us, lethal force is the first option. Hence is why Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, 2 seconds. Eric Gardner, that wasn't even a legal hold. I took police training. The only difference between my training and what police training is, I wasn't allowed to use a gun because I wasn't going to be a police officer. I was going to be a counselor with youth. But we took the same training. They said it over and over again. Lethal force is supposed to be the last option. Well, how come they just pull up and even with our dear sister's son? And I asked her on my show, what was the de-escalation? None. Pulled up, pulled the air conditioner out, put a beam on him, and you know what happened from there, and many, many others. We just can't march. It's nice. We have to change the mindset. This is all about the mindset of sick people that have the authority to kill. I even have one, and I'll be done, I even have one police officer, he left the police force in Durham, North Carolina. And I said, why did you leave? He said, I couldn't deal with the tricks. He said they would have tricks where if someone was arrested and they would twist someone's arm and twist his wrist where he would start moving. He said, stop resisting, sir. And it would make it look like others that he was resisting when he was bending his wrists up. Well, who ain't going to twitch? He said police officers was actually taught that. So if something fatal did happen, it would look like he was resisting, but when in actuality, he was twisting his arm and his wrist, so he would start fidgeting and get mad. And then when the bullets come, it looked justified. We got to change the mindset of not only our people, but those, and get those in with a badge that look like us, who understand us, and is around the neighborhood. So if you grew up with, oh man, that Jamal, he don't mean no harm. I'm gonna give you a warning this time. Now, if you commit the crime, you need to be arrested. But to be shot and killed over a traffic stop, or if you're mentally ill, you're having a bad day, you get killed, because people can wave around guns and have sawed-off shotguns. Like Dylan Roof killed 9 innocent people and he gets Burger King? Really? Really? when is this going to stop? But I'll leave you in peace as I came. Assalamu alaikum. Woo!
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you so much, Shareef, for coming and for speaking in your message. So we were going to go walk now, right, Ms. Kim? We're ready? So does everybody have a sign? Or, okay. Okay, so. You know what that is? What do you guys think? I think I don't want anybody to suffer medicine. You don't want anybody to suffer medicine.
All right, thanks. Yep. You stopped it already? Nope.
All right, I'm gonna